Okay, good morning. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you have logged in for this webinar. I'm Akshya. I'm a product marketing manager working for Kissflow, and I'll be your host today. So a couple of instructions before we proceed. By default, all the participants will be on mute throughout the webinar so that we can have the webinar with limited interruption. But don't worry, we have a dedicated 15 minutes question and answer session at the end of the webinar. So you can post your questions via the chat and the speakers will be answering to your questions. So before we begin, just a quick overview about Kissflow. Kissflow is a global leading low-code, no-code application development platform with over 10,000 customers who are actively using the platform across 160 countries. So the platform has been helping over 1 million users on a daily basis to streamline their processes. And here are some global brands that trust and use Kissflow. The platform caters to a lot of enterprises across multiple industries, including more than 50 plus Fortune 500 companies. So you can see a couple of logos here. I'm just gonna leave it for a couple of seconds for you to view them. So introducing the esteemed webinar speakers for the day, Mitchell Philby from First Rock Consulting, and along with him, we have Vinitha Ramani from Kissflow. So Mitchell is a globally recognized business and industry strategist, and he's also the founder and managing director of our partner First Rock Consulting, which is one of Australia's renowned innovation and business consultancy firm. And Mitchell comes with a very strong expertise in the innovation and technology space, and he has been helping numerous businesses to accelerate their digital transformation journey. And along with him, we have Vinitha Ramani, who is the Associate Vice President of Marketing at Kissflow. And she spearheads the entire global marketing initiatives at Kissflow here. And she comes with a very deep understanding of business challenges in today's rapidly evolving digital landscape. And I'm sure Vinitha, along with Mitchell's insights combined together, is going to be a very helpful session today. And I hope you all enjoy. So Mitchell, yeah, over to you. The floor is all yours.
Thank you very much, Cher, and thank you for that warm welcome introduction. And it's very much appreciated. I'd like to also echo your welcome to our audience today, who I believe are joining us online from across Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, and Philippines, and I think some other attendees across the globe. As Cher mentioned or positioned, I'll be taking you through and discussing some of the key insights and learnings around digital transformation, including the challenges and obstacles, as well as the opportunities that executives are continually facing today. However, to set that scene, I would like to share a little bit more perspective to my background of where my insights will come from through this conversation. As Ashay mentioned, I'm the founder and managing director of First Rock Consulting. I work very closely with boards and executive management teams, and specifically CIOs of some of the largest Australian and international enterprises. As I do a lot of work around innovation-led activities and technological change and strategy, this has led me to be ever present at both the board table as well as part of the collective executive leadership teams. And therefore, my comments today really reflect on those insights gained through this exposure. And using that common metaphor, I've effectively been that fly on the wall throughout that last 10 years, 12 years in terms of digital transformation. And that has provided me an advantage and unique lens of how different organizations are dealing with technological change. As you can see from this slide title, Take Digital Transformation from a Crawl to a Sprint. As you will notice from that title, the essence of this title is not referring to an enterprise-wide digital implementation project, rather somewhat the opposite. Today, we see many businesses around the world being somewhat ineffective in executing enterprise-wide digital transformations. They face many challenges such as cultural resistance. An example of that would be those famous 7 words that will kill every business every day, and that is, this is how we've always done it. We always want to look at how these things work in terms of scope creep. They also have an impact in terms of operational impact, time, And unfortunately, at the moment, we've got a large skills shortage. And we're seeing a lot of cost blowouts again, which all work against a CEO and the leadership team. Could I get you just to move that next slide, please, Ashaya? So this leads to me what we will discuss today, and let me go through that in a little bit more detail. We'll be discussing the importance of digital transformation, the challenges in digital transformation. We'll look at hidden IT versus IT collaboration, and then we'll talk about the digital transformation curve. Then at that stage, I'll hand over to Vinitha, who will take a deeper dive on the following topics. That includes accelerating digital transformation with low code and supercharging digital transformation with Kissflow. And then, as Ashaya said, we'll have a Q&A that will actually invite the audience to ask questions through the chat, and we'll look to answer those at the end of the session. Could I get you to move to the next slide, Ashaya, please? Thank you. So digital transformation is a force that moves businesses forward. I think it's clear that the speed of business continues to accelerate, and that is driven through both the acceptance and impact of consumerization in terms of how all customers operate today. Customers today, regardless if you're retail or a large corporate, they expect the same experience, just like consumers expect the same experience today. So it's no longer a two-speed sector economy, one for consumer retail and one for the rest of the world in terms of corporate. We're now measured all the same way, and customer experience is key. The other part is we're seeing increasing evolution of technology, and it's being adopted across the business landscape. And unfortunately, through that, business is struggling to keep up. Therefore, digital transformation is not only relevant, it is essential if you want to outcompete your competition. Digital transformation fundamentally shifts how businesses operate, and it's key to drive efficiency and productivity across a business that has been trapped in paper-based, manual or disconnected processes. Digital transformation is the enabler to accelerate the business. Some examples of that I want to talk to are, and we'll go deeper into this, but for example, meeting customer expectations. That includes such things as customer expects seamless online experiences, and the digital transformation process enables personalized interactions and convenience. We talk about IT drives efficiency. What I mean by that, for example, is streamlining processes and automating those manual tasks. We also see increasing the operational efficiency, reducing errors, and also saving time. And one of the key benefits, or the key thing about, automated processes is increasing productivity of the users. We'll also see benefits in terms of improved decision making. And really what we want to do is provide more effective, informed decision making for strategic planning for decision makers, and gain access to data that drives better insights. And the other one is operational agility. Being ability to respond quickly to both customer and industry trends is becoming a core competency of any business. Embedding that flexibility to adapt to market changes as a business model or the market dynamics change. The ability to pivot faster can be managed when you're leveraging more effective digital transformation capabilities. Can I get you to move to the next slide, Ashaya? Thank you. So this slide is really a slide that's come out of Boston Consulting Group. And what it's really highlighting is that only 30% of digital transformation succeed. That's a fairly low win rate. And I'll go into more detail of why that win rate, as I've already referred to at the beginning of my opening, why that is so low. So what we're seeing is that digital transformation is, in harsh reality, fighting the transformation within the business itself. The weight of existing workload and a constant need to address other lingering business issues are hindering enterprises from successfully getting through the digital transformation journey. Even despite their best efforts, unfortunately, transformational leaders struggle to know how to gain traction. So we're going to talk a little bit more in that more detail. If I can ask you to move to the next slide, Ashaya, please. Thank you for that. As I mentioned in my opening statement, many organizations continue to work around obstacles and are challenged in their scope and implementation of how digital transformation initiatives actually work, or how they can validate that process. And I'm going to touch upon some of these that hinder this process. And some of these are not always directly related to technology concerns or technical barriers. Unfortunately, sometimes they include people-centric issues. As I said, the way we've always done something is a cultural embedded challenge that businesses and leadership has to change. Also, the organizational structure are other impacts that also define some challenges that CIOs and business leaders have to make a digital transformation process work. So let me look at some of these in highlight, starting from the left. A lack of clear strategy. One of the key things is when a digital transformation initiative lacks a clear strategy, the organization navigates blindly. It doesn't have a compass of where it needs to navigate to. A well-defined strategy sets the direction, goals, and milestones, ensuring alignment across departments. Without it, effort becomes fragmented, resources are misallocated, and objectives remain undefined. Now, in my experience, one of the things I do a lot of times with executives and boards specifically, and now they are now including this into their KPI, a good way to start this process is to develop a problem statement. The problem statement is effectively your anchor as you navigate to your solution. And why a problem statement is so important is it allows everyone to gain clarity on the problem you're trying to work on and have people engaged as part of the commitment to deliver on the outcome. The next point is managing stakeholder expectations. Digital transformation involves multiple stakeholders, each with their unique expectations, and failure to manage these expectations will always lead to misunderstandings and conflicting against priorities and resistance. The key takeaway is one that I've learned from a period going through COVID. One of the key things that we've learned is what we learned through COVID is that you should communicate early and more frequently. And I'll come back to a reason why that's important. The next one is integration challenges. Integrating new digital tools and platforms with existing systems can be quite intricate. You can have data silos, you could have interoperability issues, you can have disruptions to current workflows, and challenges where those workflows impact the business. Understanding what you don't know and what you need to know is now an imperative in terms of reducing your operational risk. The next one's scope creep and project timelines. Now, this is one of the larger ones we see all the time. Is scope creep occurs when a project scope expands beyond the initial plan, delaying timelines and inflating costs. Now, the reason I mentioned that this is a larger one because it also entails something that I talked about before, which was lack of strategy or understanding the problem that you're trying to solve. At the same time, understanding how to manage expectations. So managing scope requires vigilant monitoring, clear change request procedures, and a commitment to staying aligned with the project's original goals. Hence why I talk about the compass, that you need to make sure that everyone's on board. And again, the message that I come back with is that, which I've already said, you've got to communicate early and more frequently. You need to make sure all stakeholders are engaged and are committed to the same outcomes. Budget and constraints, or security constraints. Now, limited budgets can hinder the adoption of advanced technologies and tools necessary for that transformation process. Moreover, we also see increasing security concerns are heightened in the digital landscape. Organizations must strike a balance between budget constraints and the need for robust security measures. An effective way to manage this is either deliver through a pilot program or a phased program, which not only reduces costs, but actually helps you validate and test the process prior to a broader scale version, and at the same time reduces the risk of the business because you identify what you don't know. The next point is resistance to change. As I mentioned, those famous 7 words that will kill a business, this is how we've always done it. This will always be a challenge. One of the most significant challenges in digital transformation is employee resistance to change. It's a cultural resistance. Staff members may feel apprehensive about the new technologies altered workflows, and unfamiliar processes. In fact, they may be also concerned that the new process may eliminate their need to be there. So they may be reluctant to adopt these digital transformation processes. Where organizations have been the most effective in terms of getting users, staff on board, they actually operate through a co-design and leverage empathy to better understand users' resistance so they make them part of the solution. So a great way to avoid that is that co-design and using empathy to leverage that conversation. And the last one on this list is technology choices. The last one is really about the abundance of technology options can be overwhelming. Choosing the right technologies for that transformation process requires careful consideration. And those factors could include scalability, compatibility, and how that compatibility works with existing systems, both in the short and the long term in terms of the viability. The secret with this is to get ahead of the wave. Resisting the change will put you on the back foot and you'll always be playing catch up. So therefore, what we really recommend is develop a position of early adopter and go through the tunnel of change earlier. It will save you in the long run, even though it may be quite new to you, but we always try to test and experiment in a very pilot or a sandbox mentality. If I get you to move to the next slide, please, Ashaya. So, this slide is fairly visible in terms of what it's trying to talk about, but we're seeing with more organizations investing in digital transformation, the need for professional developers is continuing to increase. The dependence on IT depends for a quick solution turns into a long drawn out, daunting process that stretches existing teams thin. In fact, IDC predicted that by late 2023, this year, there will be a need for 750 million applications with only 23 million developers available. Since organizations struggle to find talented developers, they rely on their existing workforce to drive important initiatives. But IT teams already have a full plate. They are already under that pressure of trying to do more with less. They are constant pressure to onboard, maintain, upgrade infrastructure, and ensure smooth day-to-day operations, just to keep the lights on. Unfortunately, you can only do so much with less. Can I get you moved to the next slide, please? So what does this mean in terms of the ripple effect? What we are seeing within business, fortunately, the consequence of having limited skilled resources to manage large application demands, what that rises is the situation of hidden IT. Now, let me touch on a few of these. I won't go into too much detail, but let me highlight that and I'll go into a more definitive explanation. If you look at urgency and speed, business units might feel that their centralized IT department is slow to respond to their particular technology needs. Therefore, in an effort to meet their immediate requirements, departments might opt for quick solutions without wanting or waiting for IT's involvement. The pace of technological change can lead to departments exploring and implementing solutions independently to keep up with the industry trends. On one side, that is a good thing. On the other side, it means that IT will eventually have to carry and manage legacy. The next one is overburdened IT teams. Overburdened IT teams often find themselves overwhelmed with the sheer volume of technology demands from different business units. As those departments seek rapid solutions to their needs, the central IT department might struggle to keep up with, leading to a delayed response time. Now, what happens is from that process, frustrated by those delays, departments might opt for hidden IT solutions to meet immediate requirements. And what I mean by that is they'll do it themselves. They'll find a way to actually go out and find the technology or software to actually start to deploy certain applications. Specialized needs. Some departments have really unique or specialized requirements that are not easily always met by the standard IT solutions provided by the central IT department. They may feel that the need to find or implement tailored or specific needs are more important, so they'll bypass central IT again. There's also, which we do see, and it comes up quite constantly in a number of organizations, is the perceived view of bureaucracy. They see the centralized IT department as a bureaucratic or inflexible department. And so therefore it's much easier to bypass them and avoid the red tape that they may deal with. Budget control. Departments want more control over their technology budgets and spending. Adopting their own solution allows them to allocate funds according to the priorities. And I see that with a number of big organisations where, for example, ANZ in Australia carries 11 distinct business units. Each business unit runs its own P&L, and therefore trying to deliver digital transformation process across the business is always fragmented. We also see talent shortage. The shortage of skilled IT professional compounds the challenges faced by central IT departments. Now, with a limited pool of experts available, IT teams might find it difficult to cater to the diverse technological needs of the entire organisation. Therefore, as a result, departments may take matters into their own hands and rely on their expertise to implement those solutions. Now, what I haven't mentioned on this slide is the factors that central ITs also have to manage, and the executives have to always be able to manage and aware. That is risk, compliance, governance, and the big one, security, cybersecurity. So that's the other challenge and impact, that the doors are opening within departments for the use of technology that doesn't protect that business from risk, compliance, governance, or cybersecurity. Can I get you to move to the next slide, please, Shale? So as I said, there's two camps that I continually see, and there's not necessarily about a right and wrong. It's the circumstances that we find that business in. And I'm not here, it's not a blame game, it's just the way things have actually developed. On one side, I've got the hidden IT, where CIOs, are very busy keeping the lights on. They just haven't got time to facilitate some of the solutions that the departments that they may want to deliver. So departments are going out there and developing their own capability. They are spending their own resources. They are deploying different technologies that may be inconsistent or not a standard approach that the central IT would want to deliver. So we're seeing that hidden IT actually been increasing rise within what's happening within business. Now, there's the other side where you see IT collaboration. We see some CIOs and IT teams getting in front of the wave and actually working collaboratively with the departments, because they understand that the departments are going to do this anyway. What they'd rather do is be on the front foot and be part of the decision-making process and supporting their technology, even though it's not ideally what they want. They might support it because they need to know that at some stage they'll probably end up managing, they'll carry the legacy, and they'll carry the costs. What they don't really want to do is have so many disparate and disconnected software applications that it kills the business in its tracks. So collaborative IT is really trying to work with the departments and giving them a solution that central IT can standardize, or basically have a tool set that is more standardized, that allows the department to get what they want, but at the same time allow the centralized IT to manage it. The challenge we have now is we're seeing an increase in the growth of hidden IT. And that's the challenge that we're trying to manage between the path forward about why digital transformation activities are sometimes disconnected and we're not achieving the results that we should, especially if we're doing point solutions rather than enterprise-wide. Can I get you to move to the last slide, please? So the digital transformation curve, let me explain this a little bit. This is based on a Rogers bell curve. And the Rogers bell curve is over 20 years, but it's even more relevant today than it was first designed for 20 years ago. And really what this slide is pointing to is that we see this with any new technology that comes into the market, and we're seeing how the investment community is supporting organizations and how investors are raising capital for startups. So it's applicable to both startup environments and enterprise. And what this is showing you on the left-hand side, where you can see innovators and early adopters, it's approximately about 16% of the market. And what we've recognized only more recently, and it's only the last 6 years that we've recently acknowledged this, is that if you focus on the first 16% of the market, the early adopters and the innovators, and you get those part of the leadership to start to use the technology, then the rest of the majority will follow. But if you can't get that 16% committed and showing use cases of technology, the rest won't follow. Unfortunately, what we see is the early majority, late majority, laggards, they sit, wait, and watch until the 16% of the market actually buy in. So at the moment, when we talk about 30% success rate only, we're only talking about that first 16% of the market technically that are working on innovative digital transformation projects. Now, we are coming up to that chasm period. It won't be long before we hit that 16%, and then the rest may follow. And this same curve is that tipping point where we are struggling at the moment to hit that 16% based on the challenges that I've already mentioned. Can I get you to move to the next slide, please? So, as it says, accelerate digital transformation with the power of low code. And one of the ways to do this is to use low code platforms. I might just ask a question of my other presenter. Vinitha, could I ask you with regard to that, what's your view on accelerating digital transformation with the power of low codes? What are you seeing in that space?
Okay, so Michelle, thanks a lot for bringing me here. You rightly brought it up because digital transformation is becoming so much relevant in today's context with, the business is changing, the landscape's changing, and, the pandemic, in fact, was a near refresher for people to realize that if they do things the way they have been doing in the past, you cannot really survive. Low-code platforms have actually evolved into a new paradigm of relooking at how applications are built, how processes are automated, how your entire organization is run. So IT organizations no longer actually go with the traditional approach. It is a newer way to how you approach application building. We'll see more about it in coming slides. I'll be happy to explore or share more details on how the energy, the whole industry is evolving and the evolution aspect.
Thanks, Vinitha. So can I get you to move that next slide, please? So in short, what we're saying, the fastest way to digital transformation is managing the talent development, making sure it's cost effective, have IT business collaboration rather than hidden IT, have all the data security, the compliance, the governance, all those things that you need to mandate within a corporate environment, and also at the same time have the ability to have rapid application development so you can actually meet users and consumer and customer demands. There's only one way to do that these days, is using a low-code solution as one of the alternatives, and that's the successful digital transformation strategy. Now, on that note, I'm going to pass to you, Vinitha. Could I get you to go a little bit more detail around low code?
Yes. Akshaya, next slide. Yeah. So we'll start off with the first aspect which I wanted to cover today. Before jumping on to low code, one of the reasons why organizations look to adopt low code, or some of the reasons that drive them to adopt low code, is what we're going to see. I came across this interesting research which showed that close to 52% of IT leaders are grappling with what they call a skill gap in their existing IT organizations, which is becoming a huge problem. And that's primarily because technology is changing so rapidly. Keeping pace with the latest and the newest forms of newer technologies coming up requires that they continuously upskill their employees and bring them on board to what is required in terms of technology. This is one of the primary challenges that is stopping them from, exploring newer initiatives, including, for instance, the emergence of AI has basically, brought the entire technology world to look at what can AI do for me. So this requires a lot of relook. Then the second point that I wanted to raise is all about how people are finding it very tough to attract and retain. it might sound a little odd because as a tech company, as a product company, we know hiring and retaining IT talent is a very different ballgame. But let's look at a traditional organization. Say you're in manufacturing, you're a retail organization, or you're into hospitality. For a business which is into core, your core is not IT. Finding the senior or very talented tech talent to be onboarded, to be retained, and to grow them is not an easy, task for the IT leader. So a CIO is always grappling to find the right resources who can work on their organization, who understands their business, and who can also look at futuristic technology to enable them to grow. And then we have a backlog, which is one of the primary reasons. I'm sure, Michelle was also presenting slides around how IT is overburdened. Just to give you a good example, we took a stats to see a typical manufacturing company, say with even 2,000 employees, roughly has close to 50 plus applications that are in the backlog for IT to build. This means that at any point in time, IT always has a plethora of applications or processes that are left unattended because they either don't have the resources, time, or the investment to go towards that level of optimization. So these are lower hanging fruits for transformation, which you could have otherwise done, which is being stopped because of unavailability of talent. And finally, you have the fourth point, that is where we see 70% of organizations are unable to scale because if an IT lead, it's not that the CIO or the IT leader does not have an idea or an inclination to do transformation. We just saw in the curve that very few are in the innovators realm, or very few are moving towards the early adopters. While most organizations want to move and want to explore newer technology, they are always burdened with their existing challenges, existing problems that is not letting them take up newer projects or newer initiatives that would actually move the IT leaders towards the boardroom, right? If I were the CIO of an organization, I would want to do strategic investments, strategic avenues where I could actually have a much more influence on the business. But if I have to deal with day-to-day operations, day-to-day business challenges, that is not going to let me or my team actually focus on projects that are more strategic to my business. So these are some of the challenges, Michelle, that I could put together on what is leading to organizations really looking at platforms that are low code enabled for you to move towards the transformation journey. Next slide, Akshay. Okay, you're on mute, I think, Michelle.
That's it. That's okay. One of the great learnings of COVID. Look, this is a good question to ask. In terms of general opinion on low code, can only develop, is low code really about developing simple application, or is it actually you can develop a more complex application?
Okay, I'll kind of, to understand this in a better perspective, I have a graph here that I think the users today would be able to understand and grasp the power of low code and where it comes in, right? On the x-axis, you have a typical organization has multiple apps and processes that they need to build. So we've mapped the total number of addressable apps on the x-axis. On the y-axis here, you will see the skills of individuals required to build these applications. From the very beginning, at the bottom layer is the most expert developer. As you further move up the y-axis, you have business users and business technologists. The orange line of the curve is actually the traditional approach to building apps, where people had necessarily to build apps using traditional codes, right? So when you actually start building lines of codes and scripting it on your own, you really need expert developers to build it. And these are applications typically which in IT parlance which are core to your business. So if these are core apps like your CRM, ERP, or maybe a supply chain if you're in retail, or inventory and all of those, comes into the core applications, which generally organizations prefer to code and maintain with their IT talent, with the most senior, most professionals in their system. The era of low code is what you're trying to see here with the blue line. Typically in market, generic low code platforms are meant to up the ante when it comes to the people who can build it. So we've moved from expert developer to anybody who has technical knowledge or who can be a seasoned developer, could be even 3 to 5 years of experience, has a good understanding of technology, is new age and all of that. We enable them, and low code basically is a paradigm where your actually components are available. It's a visual builder with ability to customize and custom build. The challenge or the note that you need to keep in mind is low code apps do not necessarily in general can build every application that an organization needs. So typically close to 80% or 85% of any organization's application needs today can be built using the low code platform. Then comes no code, which is the green line here, which is actually a newer paradigm where we say, not all applications in an organization needs to be custom coded or need to be customized to needs of an organization. That the whole idea is these are templates, these are processes which are specific, and you can simply drag and drop, have widgets added, and anybody who understands or who's in the core of the business. So we usually use this parlance. If you're somebody closest to the business, you know what is required for you. So enabling organizations towards no code is where any business user or any domain specialist comes in to build it. And finally, we have Kissflow here, and you would see the white line where we are trying to move or bring the best of low code and no code on a unified platform. The advantage Kissflow brings to the table is the fact that, you have the functionality, the coding capabilities, the customizations that you expect in an app building environment of a low code, along with the simplicity and the scalability of a no code platform combined in unified one platform. And that's Kissflow for you. And this is one of the challenges or reasons why we differ in the market. And that's how we differentiate, because typical low-code platforms today are trying to further complexify their entire platform so that they can address more applications and move closer to the orange curve. Whereas Kissflow enables and is moving towards the Y graph and moving more users to build applications. That's the journey I wanted to explain here. I hope this was clear, Mission.
No, that's great. That's a great breakdown of the benefits of combining low code and no code. That's great.
Great. Akshay. Yeah. Okay.
So in terms of how can this evolution align with the journey of Kissflow, how would you best answer to that question, Anita?
Okay. I'll try and maybe this will require me to go back a few decades. Actually, when, a couple of decades back, coding from scratch or typically to even build a particular form, thousands of lines of codes had to be written. You needed Java developers, you needed .NET architects in-house to build simple processes, even simple forms that are required for automating your organizational needs. And then entered the entire era of low code, where the drag and drop functionality, and it kind of changed the paradigm of how applications get built, because it became visual. People could simply, take widgets, embed them, and an application was necessarily ready for you to use within a few days or even few hours if it is pretty simple to use, because there are templates and there are galleries available where standard applications are ready to use and installable. So this is the low code era. And then comes the citizen development today, because organizations realize that, we saw this data of 750 million apps to be built and just 28 million developers available in the market. Now, that's not a, equation of demand and supply that can be addressed with just skilling, upskilling, or enabling, because ultimately every human has just 24 hours and your work hours are not going to, extensively grow up further, right? So the whole idea is IT has to start focusing on applications that are critical to business and enable their business users to build apps that are closest to their business challenges. Because the whole backlog idea, or progressive organizations today are looking at, how do I make a developer out of every user in my organization? How do I enable every user to become a developer? Because if you do not enable them, as you rightly pointed in some of the previous slides, was hidden IT is going to enter in, shadow IT is going to start. People are going to either build it or buy it. And we are dealing with the Gen Z organization today where, people don't have the patience to wait for months together for simple POCs to be built, right? So the whole idea is citizen development, which is predominantly no code, enables users to quickly build applications, and low code is where IT steps in to customize and give it the shape and the responsibility that you need. And finally, you have the future, which is actually looking very positively and bright on us, which is AI-led automation. The emergence of generative AI today is become so prominent that you have to either embrace it or you will be left behind. So Kissflow, as I would like to bring in here today, is we already have our gameplay on low code and citizen development, and very soon, say by September, in a month from now, you would see the AI-led automation embedded within the platform, which means any application or process that you try to build, there is an AI engine that's going to give you prompts, that's going to guide you, that's going to make the entire experience seamlessly superior, and that's going to speed in or fasten the entire journey.
It's a nice way to just follow the bouncing ball, isn't it, when it does that for you?
Absolutely, Michelle.
So Vinitha, how does Kissflow help organizations supercharge their digital transformation journey?
Okay. Let me then give this example. First and foremost, this is the Kissflow platform for you. In a nutshell, in a single slide, if I were to explain how Kissflow can help you in your digital transformation, we ensure, or we position Kissflow as the platform for your digital operations or business operations layer, because most organizations look at either your backend or your front-end systems, because your front-end is customer-facing, or your back-end, which is your ERP solutions. These are layers that you predominantly start looking at when you start doing your transformation. But one of the primary pillars of transformation, we believe, is the middle layer, which we call the messy middle, because most of the business operations are the connectors that connect both these systems. And if any of these do not function well, and if these are not automated and not structured well, it could really affect your business. The first and foremost module we offer is a case management, which is predominantly for unstructured workflows. It helps organizations manage their entire bugs. It could be something like bug tracking, could be service requests, ticket management, any of those unstructured workflows where humans are expected to move, the flow of tickets are managed here. The second layer that we speak about is that of process automation, where you can enable organizations to build both simple as well as complex apps. And today I can proudly say it's one of the most sophisticated process automation platforms available in the market, trusted by hundreds and thousands of customers globally, because it has a very solid business rule engine, comes with user roles, has embedded analytics as part of it, and that's the process automation layer. And finally, we have the application builder. We have standard apps which are available as part of App Store. We also enable organizations, especially developers and IT leaders, to customize and custom build applications with pages and notifications. The difference that Kissflow, as I was explaining in the previous slides also, was the fact that typical low-code platforms in the market are trying to complex their platforms or build functionality that makes the platform almost similar to a typical coding environment. So you are expected to actually get trained on low-code platforms to build, which necessarily means you're not actually reducing the effort that an IT organizations need to put in this. Kissflow works on the power of simple, which means that we are trying to automate the entire piece. We do not want to make people train their people on platforms. Rather, it should be so user friendly and intuitive that anybody should be able to build. And the reason, one of the other aspects we believe, is the power of two, where you spoke about the collaborative IT, right? This is the future where IT is no longer restricted to a department. It is going to get infused into every organization, every department of an organization. So the role of business IT is going to evolve. you're going to have IT leaders in marketing, you're going to have IT fraternity in supply chain, in your plant operations. So that means we need to have the power of two, where IT and business coordinate and work together in tandem. That's the differentiator that Kissflow, and I wanted to leave you with this final thought.
That's a nice message. Can I get next slide, please, Ashaya? So I might hand back to you, Ashaya, for any of the Q&A.
Yes, Mitchell. Thanks, Vinita. Thanks, Mitchell. That was a really very insightful session, and I'm sure all of our participants would have found it extremely useful. We have a couple of questions from our participants. One is, in terms of regulatory compliance, how does Kissflow ensure that application development using your platform adhere to industry regulations and compliance standards? As of now, what are the existing compliance regulations of Kissflow?
Okay, we adhere to all the standard regulatory requirements, ISO, and all of that. In addition, we recently launched a very powerful governance layer, because governance is one of the primary requirements that IT leaders are looking for, right? Because when you build, or when you enable, and when we speak of saying, build an organization of developers, let anybody build, give access to more users with the platform to drive things. The IT wants to have control, have visibility, and also have, you don't want any untoward, incidents to occur. So the governance layer basically helps organizations have visibility into what actions are happening at an audit trail. There's a complete audit trail available as part of the platform. You have user level access. You can upgrade or downgrade users. You can also put restrictions on some of those, features or capabilities that you want to keep it aligned. So it's a complete package, which is very powerful for the CIOs. They get very impressed the moment they see governance, because one of the pressing challenges is, how do I handle this? And if you were to move to a platform like Kissflow, on a low-code platform like us, the entire governance part of it is well taken care of.
That's amazing, Vinita. We have another question. As companies transition from manual processes to digital solutions, what are the most significant benefits they typically experience, and how can they make the most of these improvements?
I might jump and answer that one. And it's probably a bit of a scattergun in terms of, it's a machine gun actually, a response. Obviously speed, the business, it accelerates the speed of that, how it operates. Obviously there's a reduced cost, increased productivity and efficiency. And I just want to go back to that productivity. We will focus on productivity more and more in the next 5 years. As we've hit inflation around the world, we'll start to see potential labor employment actually increase in terms of unemployed. And what the businesses are looking for is greater productivity and efficiency. So productivity is a key to getting better margins for the business. So productivity is a really big driver of digital transformation. And also, at the end of the day, we're seeing that customer experience is key, because customers have a lot of options to choose who they want to work with, or partner with, or want to engage with, or consume through. And so having the speed of communications, and for people at a consumer level to make fast decisions and have a better experience, you need digital transformation to operate within the business. So speed, reduction in cost, definitely, cost efficiency, productivity, and customer experience are probably my 5 key things. And Vinita, you might add something else to that, but I know they're the key drivers that if I was talking to a board, executives, they all say those 5 things will be the ones that they just reinforce.
Oh yes, you're absolutely bang on, Michelle. I think those 5 continue to be my favorites, or my top 5 too. Maybe the only other thing I would add, because Akshaya raised, or I had a question from the user just about security and governance and compliance. I think those are also, this is maybe yet another avenue for people, because when they're doing it, they also want to have shadow IT out of the system, because legacy maintenance, legacy issues and security challenges that they drop are becoming a major concern, and people also want to address that through platforms like Loco.
Yeah, so I guess the word that I would use is taking complexity out of it, because it's too hard to work with. And unfortunately, a lot of people now who are coming into the workforce just want to keep it simple, as you said. So taking that complexity out is definitely a key, maybe a 6 point, if I was using machine gun term.
Yes.
That's great. Vinita, circling back to the compliance and regulation question, the question is about whether Kissflow follows regulatory compliances like HIPAA, PCI, DSS, etc. So that is the question that
we are HIPAA compliant. I will have to come back on the other compliance. If they have a specific set of questions or compliance, details that they want us to look at and come back, we will surely be. They could drop an email to us, and we will, because each industry has different compliance, and there are also compliances that are state specific, country specific also, in terms of data governance and data as well. All of these can be answered, and we would address those questions for the prospect.
That's great. I hope this answered the question. We have another question which is on how can organizations balance innovation and operational stability, ensuring both short-term gains and long-term competitiveness?
Do you want that one, or do you want me to take that one?
I'll let you take it first.
Okay, so how can organizations balance innovation and operational stability, ensuring both short-term and long-term gains? Look, spending a lot of time in the innovation space, as I said, working with startups and working with large enterprises, the key thing that we see between corporate is that it's actually a paradigm in terms of balancing innovation, in terms of wanting the organization to outcompete another competitor and to leapfrog or be disruptive or incremental in terms of its innovation. The challenge that we have in that space is really about how we've all been educated in business to be a very good corporate citizen. And what I mean by being a good corporate citizen, one of the things that we learn as we come up through the management levels of a business that we may be working with is that you learn to protect the business. You learn to make sure that you have a lens of governance and compliance in terms of what you do and how you engage the market or how you work with others. Now, as you develop that risk mitigation or that lens of risk, what the challenge is that when you look at risk all the time, as a good corporate citizen should, you start to be less innovative because it's easy to do nothing. It's easy not to take the risk. And so what we see is there's actually conflict between being innovative and also organizational or operational stability. And what we've got to do is we've got to make sure that leadership are still understanding the inspiration and aspiration of where the innovation should come from. And what I mean by that is I spend a lot of time with businesses where they may spend 8 months putting a business plan together. They get their BAs to price up the risk of that operation. By the time they want to deliver that solution, the market has already moved. You can set up software 24 hours and outcompete your competitor tomorrow. However, what can happen in a lot of businesses, they will go through the cultural process. This is how we've always done it. And when they finally deliver that proposal, that business case, it's far too expensive to even consider. It's probably outdated. And also it shows that you wouldn't do it because now you're out of time with it. So again, it's a debate. I don't know if I have a pure answer for it, but I know that in my experience, I'm always educating the business owners and executives and boards about that debate, about how they should manage innovation and risk in terms of operational growth, both, and that's reflective of short and long-term competitiveness. Vinita, you may have another lens on that.
I might want to give one perspective here because I think if you were the IT leader, one of maybe because I come from this low-code environment, typically any kind of innovation requires investment, and one of the reasons most organizations kill innovation at grassroots is because you really don't know what results it's going to give and is it going to be beneficial to put, because the ROI cannot be guaranteed. Now, if you had a simpler and an easier way to at least get some POCs, get started, you make those in sprints, right? Instead of doing a full marathon, what if you could do smaller POCs and test it out and see the benefits and then scale things up? It really means that you're constantly trying to do something different. You're trying to explore, and that's where platforms like low code come in, because typical code only platforms would mean effort, people, investment, cost, energies of months together to get even one application out. But if you could simply let some of those business users or even your IT teams to constantly look at newer ways of newer platforms that they can build or newer applications that they can test on, which means there is an innovation engine that's always running. You really don't have to stop your major projects just because the POCs have to go on. So that is enablement, and you don't need to have a central department for innovation, because I think innovation should happen across, and it should be at an org level. So this is what platforms enable if you are enabling your users.
Yeah, look, I have to even go one step further and reinforce what you just said. Is one of the things that we do learn from the startup environment that big businesses now adopting is the ability to pilot and test and experiment with technology, and using a pilot process or a phase process for execution is a way to de-risk the business, because you're still learning and testing and evaluating and getting validation on the solution that you're trying to implement, but you're doing it at a risk mitigated process. So that is definitely 100%. That's how all the startup organizations are getting to the market. And for example, there's a small company called Microsoft that deploys technology and software. And guess what? It's not perfect. It's not meant to be perfect. Guess who actually makes it perfect? The users. So a lot of times now people deploy technology that is not designed to be perfect, because we don't know what perfect is until the customers start to develop that even further. So our customers are our resource base. So another point just to highlight with what you're saying, Vinita, I totally agree.
Perfect. Yes. Thanks, Michelle.
That's amazing, guys. We have one final question. Does Kissflow have a transition management just in case a client, after achieving digital transformation and opted to get all the data hosted on the on-premises? Does the data from Kissflow platform be provided to client together with the codes, and what is the front-end format?
Okay, first and foremost, Kissflow currently is not available on premises. We are a completely cloud-driven platform. So that's the first format. Two, because we're completely cloud, the data is available for organizations. I might not have got the second question. What part of data porting is required? Are they saying the data layer needs to be available? And in case they were to move from one platform to another in future, is that the question? Maybe they want to clarify.
They haven't mentioned that part over here.
Can they? Maybe we will have to answer them with specifications on what they intended, because I might want to answer them also one-on-one in that case.
Sure, done, Vinita. Yeah. Data. Yeah. They have meant data SQL or MySQL.
Okay. Yeah, it can be downloaded as a MySQL. Yes.
Okay.
That is only that is if they were to take it, but at a admin level, this can be downloaded. Yes.
I hope that answers the question. Just in case, if you have any other clarifications regarding this, we'll be more than happy to help you out. Please do reach us directly through email, or we'll be there to assist you. So, okay. I think the questions are done. Any other questions that the participants would like to ask the speakers?
Can I see? I think I can see two other questions that may be there. Share? Is that?
Sorry, Mitchell?
Am I seeing two additional questions that you may not have asked? Data will be provided in machine reliable format. Export options are available. Is that the question, or was that response?
It was a question. So I think we have, that's it. Like, the questions are done. So yeah, I think we are good to go. Any final thoughts that you guys want to add, or we can close off the webinar with this?
No, I've got nothing. Nothing more to add. But thank you for your time today. Appreciate it.
Thank you everyone for your time. It was a wonderful session with you, Michelle. I thoroughly enjoyed the flow of thoughts that you brought in, and I was glad I was able to share my side of insights too on the low-code, industry and market as well.
No, I learned a lot today as well. Thank you, Vinita.
Thank you
Shane.
Thank you. Michelle. Thank you, Vinita. Thank you, participants. I hope you all had a very good, insightful session. Thank you. Thank you so much.